Hello there. My name is Alex, and I sell cheese for a living. As a cheesemonger and certified cheese professional, I have helped thousands of customers find their favorite cheese. Each episode, I'll share what I've learned from behind the counter as we dive into the vast, fascinating world of all things cheese. This week, we have our very first interview on The Modern Monger, and it's from a guy named Lee Anderson. Lee is a cheesemonger and someone very close to my own personal cheesemonger story, as he was someone who helped me study and train, for lack of a better word, for my own CCP exam. I met Lee a few years ago, and he was working behind a cheese counter, and I believe I met him at a time when I didn't even exactly know what a CCP was. I'd heard the letters before, but I didn't know what they meant or what they could do for someone in their career or for their life. And he showed me that you can have a very fulfilling career behind the counter, selling cheese, helping people find their favorite bites. What a joy to work with. He is a true people's person. In this interview, we start talking about the American Cheese Society Conference judging that happens up in Minnesota every year. And he volunteers and goes up there, and he helps the judges by receiving some of the trucks of cheese, preparing the cheese, and when the judges are done grading it and judging it, they package it up and ship it out to a bunch of different various places around the city. So we kind of jump right in the middle of a conversation, but that's a little bit of the backstory. We're just talking about the judging experience that happens in Minnesota every year before the annual American Cheese Society Conference in July. It's May, but the ACS isn't until the middle of July, right?
Right.
Okay. It just takes this long to get all the judging done?
They used to do the judging right before the convention, and then they found out that they could simplify things by doing it separate. And I don't know, somebody hooked them up with the University of Minnesota's football stadium, Huntington Bank Stadium, and I think for the last five, maybe 6 years, they've been doing the cheese. They bring in the pallets and pallets of cheese in there, and the judges spend 2 days upstairs deciding which cheese is absolutely the best, and there's a bunch. I don't know how they do it, because there's pallets
Yeah, it
and
looked like
pallets
truckloads
of cheese.
of it.
Literally truckloads. I mean, it just, UPS just keeps dropping off stuff, and
Nice.
and we continued to get it. I think most of it probably came in Tuesday, and then Wednesday they got a bunch more, and then a little bit dribble-drabbled in Thursday, and then we even got some Friday morning. So
Nice.
So yeah, but it's amazing. It was like, beings were both familiar with the cheese counter. Some people came in, they'd say, "Wow, I can't believe there's all this cheese," and I have to tell them. I said, if I had 2 more of these cases like this, I could fill them up with cheeses made in the United States we don't even carry.
Yep.
So it's a big love affair, I think, for cheesemakers.
What was the best one you tried? Was there any new ones?
You don't really know, because everything comes in with they disguise it. They don't, so the judges don't know what they're who's it could be Maricas, it could be Point Reyes has a really great Gouda, and they do their best to disguise it for the judges. Sometimes they don't do a really great job of it, but they try. But
Right on.
so we get, and that's a kind of cool thing is while I'm up there, the last 2 days I'm up there, we're in what they call the donation room, because somebody might send a 30-pound wheel of cheddar, or in some cases 40-pound blocks of Fantina. I don't know why you'd send that much, but and then the judges just take a little core sample out, test it, and then they're done with us. And so we have they have a donation room where we cut up cheese into smaller pieces. Most of it goes to a place up there called Fishes and Loaves, for feeding the less fortunate. and
Nice. Very
they
good.
get a lot of cheese.
I wanted to go up one of these years. How do you just email someone at ACS?
I I can, you know, I mean, they send out an email looking for volunteers, but I mean, there's people that are not even involved with cheese that are just curious that come in and volunteer up there. So, you know, it's there's no system of well, we're going to take you, but not you. No, anybody that shows up, they
Okay,
get to kick in there. So I can let you know next year when I get the email about volunteering for it.
that would
But
be
yeah,
cool.
they have, you know, runners running all these racks of cheese up to the judges, and you know, for 3 to 4 days there. Let's put it this way: I did enough running and enough standing, and evidently my shoes didn't fit really good. I got a nice blister, but
Nice,
and my Fitbit kept telling me I was over 20,000 steps. So
nice.
we run back and forth up there, and it's on 3 different floors of the football stadium. So
Yeah,
yeah, so we can let you know next year, and you can come on up and cut the cheese, baby.
I think that would be so. I don't. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of different skill levels to those people who are doing it like you, but do they ask you to cut to specific weights just by eye, or are you just chopping it to smaller bits?
We're just chopping it into smaller bits for the donations. It's We're chopping it into the bits for the guys that might want to take it home, and then some of the judges request some, so we got to put some back for them, and then they set up a couple racks where they set up pieces and they give it to university employees that are working in the stadium, and then I think there's one more place they send it to a hotel. Maybe it's the hotel where most of them are staying, but
Mhm.
so yeah, it's there's no set number. You just, I mean, sometimes you get so many of one cheese that you just start packing the box, and they're going to get a whole bunch of brie that
Mhm.
they need to get rid of quickly. But yeah, it's
Nice.
I mean, I think we probably reloaded while I was there probably 4 pallets of cheese. You know, these big boxes, four
Wow.
stacking them about 4 high, and then wheeling them down into the cooler so they don't become bad cheese,
Well,
because
just
nobody likes bad cheese.
nobody likes bad cheese. A little
Stinky
warm is
cheese,
fine.
yes. Bad cheese, no.
I love that. Okay. Well, let's officially get started. First off, I would say just if you want to give a little background of yourself, how you got into the cheese business, and so forth.
Well, the first thing I would tell you about getting into the cheese business is I wish I had done it about 10 years earlier because it was so much fun. But back when I was a deli manager, they got I believe it actually may have started over in Council Bluffs over there, the one on the east side of town. Their cheese person was bringing in wheels and making really great displays, and he was also worked in the liquor department. And I don't know if somebody saw it and thought, we should maybe work on that. So for whatever reason, the big dogs started taking deli managers on trips up to Wisconsin, and I think I was involved with the second group that got to go up there. And it was a 3 day trip. They flew you up in an airplane, and it was nice.
Nice.
But we spent uh, 3 days visiting different cheesemakers, and mostly cheese tasting. It wasn't a lot of super education, but you got to see a lot of different cheese and try it that maybe that you wouldn't have done on your own.
Mhm.
And so I went up there on that one. Was up there with Troy, as a matter of fact. Good old Troy Helm, and
Mhm.
he was a deli manager at that time too. And we kind of enjoyed the trip, and then for whatever reason, about maybe less than a year later, I won another trip or something up there, and it wasn't as big a group, but we went to different cheesemakers and visited with them and got a little more information, and that's probably when I started thinking, this is kind of cool. I kind of like this, and we were starting to bring in the wheels. I remember the first time we were my first trip up there, we visited Sartori, and Ken and Judge was I, heavily involved in deli in the cheese departments, and he singled me out back on the bus. He said, "Lee, how many wheels of this one would you order?" And they were 24-pound wheels. And I said, yeah, two or three. And he said, not 10 or 15. And I go, no, not yet.
Wow. A good way to start.
Well, they like to go gun ho with the cheese program. Anyway, they did pretty much, and so I was still the deli manager, and I even um, build a display for California Cheese Month, which they used to do on a regular basis, and so I won a trip to California, and we went into cheesemakers in the Napa Valley, Nicasio, Point Reyes, Marin French,
Mhm.
lots of really great cheesemakers up there, and we got to visit with them and again sample their cheese, see how they, when we got to Point Reyes, and I mean, they treated their cows better than they treated my wife. They had the massager there for them. They had a dietitian. It was great, and
Nice.
so I kind of thought, this is good. And so we decided that we needed a cheese specialist, and I took one of my employees and who was pretty good with it, and she started being our cheese specialist. Everybody else would call cheesemonger, but in different stores, but she enjoyed it, and she didn't get to go on as many trips as I did, which was kind of sad. But anyway, two Christmases at our store, she was sick, and Christmas time, as you are aware, is the high point of selling specialty cheese at a
Mhm.
at a grocery store, and I didn't have anybody out there pushing it, and finally after that second Christmas, I had gone to the store director and said, "What are the chances that I could be your cheese specialist?" And they were fond of that idea for reasons that I'm pretty good with customers and really enjoyed them, and I was enthusiastic about the cheese, but mostly it was because I didn't do enough of the paperwork that they liked as a deli manager.
Nice. Nice.
So they said, yeah, let's give that a try. And even in between there, they tried to throw some charcuterie at me, but I still kind of just maintained the cheese formula, and I won another trip up there and got to go to Sartori, and they put us up in this really nice resort for the weekend, and we went and learned how Sartori made cheese and how their cheddar cheese isn't the same as, say, our good friends out there in Kiel, Wisconsin. Yeah,
Mhm.
they make it differently. They don't use the dreaded cheddaring process, but still gosh darn good cheese. So anyway,
I didn't know that.
yeah, there's I mean, you've probably seen the cheddaring, which is a noun and a vowel. And
Yeah.
anyway, we we got to see how they did it, and and then again, there's I can go on and on and on and on about all the experiences I've had. I mean, we're up there, and I was asking them, so they make a cheese called Merlot
Mhm.
Bellavitano, one of the store favorites.
Mhm.
And so I was up there, and you go into this room, and there's this gigundous horse tank full of Merlot wine, and you got these 20-pound wheels of cheese just go, bouncing around in there, floating around, turning purple. And I said, so what do you do with the wine when you're done? And basically, they told me, they said, we dehydrate we take the water out, recycle it, and then what's left, whatever that is in there, is fed to cattle.
Oh, cool.
Which
Right on.
they just used everything. It was kind of a cool thing to learn, because I couldn't imagine. They did a whiskey cheese. They did the Belviton, a couple different beer flavored cheeses, and in these gigundous tanks, and you going, man, you got to have something to do with that stuff. You can't just pour it down the drain, and they
No.
didn't. At my old store on Maple Street, had a three-step program, a 100, 200, 300 level for their cheese specialists.
Mhm.
And I started taking those. But first off, they made the deli managers go take one or two of them.
Hmm.
That was just a requirement. You didn't, which I didn't mind. But
No problem.
I got through it, and I got through level 300, and that was kind of the time when the store was thinking, we got these new charcuterie programs. We might want you to gear that way. Wasn't excited about it, but I'm a team player,
Mhm.
and I got a call from Des Moines, and they said, "Are you gonna? We your period has expired for your requirements to get level 300, but we want to extend it, and you got a 97 on the test. Don't you want to finish it?" And I go, "Well, sure."
Yeah. Yeah.
So we did the required homework and passed, and after that, again, as you are aware, and as once you do that, they give you the opportunity to take the American Cheese Society's Certified Cheese Professional test. To pretty much in the United States, that's the cream of the crop for cheese expertise. And so I was going to take it. They again went to Des Moines, took the prep class, and my daughter decided to get married, and I didn't get to take the test that summer. And
Oh
the
no.
next year, I was going to, they put me off a year. But the thing was, the next year the store didn't send me to the prep class because they'd already paid for it once, and I guess that was all I was going to get.
Hmm.
So I had to, starting in about February, I pretty much had to study everything myself, and knowing that the test was in July, and long story short, 8 trillion flashcards and books to read, and fake tests to take, and we took the test in July in Richmond, Virginia. Flew you out there, and when we got done with the test, I I was pretty sure that my plane had crashed and burned, because I just wasn't real confident that I had done well, because it's such a daunting test. It covers so much stuff, and so much stuff that you don't, after you're done, you say, I'm never gonna use that.
Hmm.
And here's a little hint: that stuff keeps popping up, and you do use a little bit of it, but or you can surprise and amaze your friends with little trivia facts that they didn't know about.
Hmm.
But so that happened in July, and then a long waiting process. But in September, a little after Labor Day, I got a email from the American Cheese Society, and the first word was congratulations, and I was pretty proud of it. You don't get, I don't know how to put it, and you know I was in my early 60s by then, and taking a test like that and learning all that stuff and retaining it was a challenge. It was daunting, is the word that I used for most folks, but yeah, it was also a super amazing accomplishment, and short of my kids and my wife and family all are much more major events. But as far as my work career goes, it was probably my proudest moment was getting the certified cheese professional designation, and then learning that you never have to take the darn test again.
Yeah. As long as you don't let it lapse, that's such a blessing.
No, that's a little bit why I keep dinking into Minnesota and stuff. So anyway, long story about how I got there.
Right on. And also, I think we've talked about this before, but I had a very similar experiences. I walked out of that room thinking that I failed. I'll have to take it again next year. Something bad happened. And then I got the letter, and the first word was congratulations. I was like, oh, I know what Lee was talking about. I know what he
Yeah.
felt like.
Well, I mean, it's kind of crazy. When I took it in that room in Richmond, Virginia, they didn't do any of the locations where you could do it over the computer at that time. There was 300 people in that room, and it come to find out that 111 passed the test. I
Hmm.
think we had 8 employees there out of that 300, and two of us passed, and the two that passed were the ones that didn't think they did. The ones that came out, yeah, I think I did great on that. Not quite, but I and I mean, kind of a sidestep about that is the people that took the test should be great cheese people, just because that knowledge is now theirs. Even if they didn't do great on the test,
Hmm.
they can be proud of what they know. They can help customers pick out amazing cheeses, and tell them why they're amazing cheeses. And but I, I heard that very same story at my prep class. I said, and the guy that said it said that he hadn't passed it, and when he said that, I thought to myself, yeah, right, but he was right. It was, even if you hadn't passed, you could be an amazing cheesemonger for the store you were working at.
So on the same lines of the CCP, is there anything you would pitch to future people who want to take the test, like future cheesemongers who want to be CCPs, but it is very daunting of, hey, learn 10,000 facts about cheese and dairy animals. Do you have any
Well,
where they should start?
first off, as again, as you're aware, I mean, you have to have an amazing number of hours in the cheese, working with cheese before they'll even let you take the test. I forget what it is. I'm thinking it was upwards of over 10,000 hours of time, and I can't, it may be off by a couple 100,000, I don't know, but it was more than some doctors had to before they could stay. I
Hmm.
know there's something on the internet out there, and I have it in my computer somewhere that it tells you that the different hours, and I'm absolutely sure you've seen it, but yeah, it's and then it's just, I don't know, it's just a lot, I think the thing that would help most people, which also helped me, especially that with not having the prep class to kind of refresh my mind, is get some mentors, get two or three really, CCPs that have been there and done that and can help you and are willing to help you. And what you'll find is, what I really found in the cheese industry is these people want to share their knowledge. They're not trying to hide what they know. They want to share it. It's there's no that cheese is bad, we're not going to help them.
Yeah.
I've yet to see that with any cheesemaker out there. If they've got a problem, they put it out there and somebody comes to their rescue, and that's kind of neat. And I think if you get the mentors, and you have and I guess the real thing that you need to be a good CCP is passion. If
Mhm.
you don't have a passion for cheese, and I know that may sound crazy to some people that you can have a passion for cheese, but if you don't, you're wasting your time,
Mhm.
because it just won't be what you want to do for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Mhm.
I There's a wonderful, wonderful lady up in Lakeville, Minnesota. I think she's German, and she has absolutely fabulous cheese case, and everything's always cut and wrapped, and it's perfect. And I've never come close to having a case that looked like hers. And but she's not a CCP. She
Mhm.
didn't need it. I mean, you don't need it, but it's nice.
It is nice.
It is an accomplishment. And get the people to help you along the way. I mean, I had people giving me flashcards. I probably had over 1,200 flashcards with questions about cheese, about what kind of goat made this cheese, what the butterfat content of that cheese was, what the white blood cell content on the cow
Mhm.
was, and it's a ton of stuff to take in. But with and that was the fun part about the cards, because I had over 1,200 of them, and I go through and I went through them. That was probably my best study thing, was the flashcards, especially because Twyla had written the answers on the back, so I didn't, of hers, so I could flip them and go. But none of those questions were on the test.
Mm-mm.
None of them. But
Yeah.
they gave you an idea of how the questions were going to be. So, but yeah, so you got to have help to get through it, and and then be willing to help when it's your turn.
Yeah. Well, so like they had set me up with two people to be a mentor to. I've never heard from. I reached out one time and I said, "Hey, this is who I am. Here's my cell number. Email me, text me anytime, whatever." And I've never heard from them.
I did the same thing when once they asked me if I'd be a mentor. I said, "Yeah, sure," and they gave me a young guy over. I believe he was actually in Ankeny, Iowa, and I talked to him once, and I never heard from him ever again.
Hmm.
And I don't believe he's a CCP, but yeah.
Nice. Oh, I love that. Yeah, when I was studying for it and taking it or getting ready to take it, I remember bugging so many people and I didn't know what questions were important. So, like Matt over at the other store, I would ask him about different dairy breeds. And he's like, I don't know anything about dairy breeds. I was asking the
Well,
wrong guy the wrong question. All right, that was just part 1 of my conversation with Lee. You're going to have to join us next week where we finish our chat about cheese. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. My name is Alex, and this has been The Modern Monger.